Good afternoon, everyone. Good afternoon, everyone. So I'm very, very excited and honored to be here today to talk to you about this very special book that after this conversation will be officially released called Tomorrow's Children, How to Raise Children to Stay Human in a High-Tech Society. So this is the famous Dr. Mahalia Hines, who was a lifelong educator in Chicago. She was a principal. She's the president of the Common Ground Foundation. She says she's retired, but she just wrote a book and she's almost 80, so I don't think that she's really retired.
No.
So I had the privilege of working with Dr. Hines over the last year. I gave her my Sundays to focus on this book, and I can tell you that after working with Dr. Hines, it has sort of changed my day-to-day, my way of being, so I'm excited to share some of those lessons and to elevate up Dr. Hines' message in the book. So I'm gonna start by just framing a description from the book, and then we're gonna get into some fun questions. So Tomorrow's Children is more than a book, it's a heartfelt call to action. Dr. Mahalia Hines combines her wealth of experience with a forward-looking perspective, creating a manual that resonates with parents and educators alike. In a world increasingly dominated by technology, this book stands as a beacon offering timeless wisdom and practical advice on how to instill essential values in our children. Dr. Hines invites readers on a journey to rediscover the humanity that binds us all, providing a roadmap for fostering love, empathy, and gratitude in the generations to come. Okay, so Dr. Hines, what made you so passionate about writing the book, Tomorrow's Children?
It was really after I attended ASU last year. I was really excited about all of the technology. I was running from one session to another, and especially being exposed to AI. I was very excited about what it would do for teachers, the time it would save. When I was a teacher, it took me hours to prepare lesson plans. And now you can prepare them in a minute. So I was very excited about that. But what happened when I got home, my excitement became concern because I looked at all of the technology that was being pushed out to our children in education. And I asked myself, well, where's the human element? If we move forth with this, we have got to have a human element. You can't have high tech without high touch.
Thank you, Dr. Hines. So I'm actually going to read a couple of quotes. We may have time for me to share a little bit about how Dr. Hines' book, for any of you educators out there, has really helped us center, as this technology is rising, how to center humanity. So I want to talk about that, but I'm going to share a couple of quotes just to root us in what our teacher said about her book. So I'm going to read the quote she just said a little bit more from the book. So it's, I don't think we can have a high-tech without high touch and expect our children to grow up to be kind, loving, empathetic, and respectful adults. So our teachers in a survey quoted that as a takeaway from her. Dr. Hines asked us to imagine the student you want to see when they graduate and think about how to model those skills for your students. So this conversation's a little bit emotional for me because for 17 years I've sort of followed Dr. Hines around. Many of us in this space have done the same thing. I'm looking at the front row at Constance and Occasion, Phyllis, who we've all sort of sat at Dr. Hines' feet and really listened to her. For me, when meeting her 17 years ago, I sat with her on a bench and shared my life story. She shared her life story. And I kept remembering thinking, wow, this woman has such wisdom, so many lifelong lessons for everyone. I hope one day she writes a book. So over the years, I would tell her that I hope she writes a book. And here we are today, and she's releasing that book. So I'm excited to get into a little bit more of those themes. But one of the quotes I just read, she shared with me this quote about, or she shared with me this lesson about creating a silhouette with your students. and filling in the attributes and modeling for kids who you want your kids to be. Can you talk a little bit about those silhouettes?
One of the things I feel, whether you have a silhouette or have it in your mind, you need to imagine what you want your child or student to be when they graduate from high school or when they leave your house. All of us love our children, but do you like them? Some of us won't admit that we don't like them. I saw the young lady over there raise her head when I said that. I think that we need to raise children that we like. And the only way that that's going to happen is you be what you want them to be. They have to see what you want them to be. Children don't do what you say, and if you think they do, you're fooling yourself. They do what they see. So it's very important that you're very intentional about raising children or about the students in your room. The silhouette was an activity I did years ago. I asked the students, the teachers rather, to fill in the characteristics that we wanted for our students when they graduated from high school. They were real excited. Great values in there. Respect. Respect was in there several times. We want them to be loving. We want them to be smart. And so after they put all of these things into the silhouette for the children, I pulled out one for them. And I said, if that's the case, what must you look like?
Thank you. So your book is defined as a roadmap for parents and teachers navigating the complexities of raising children. Some might say that it's a parent's job to raise children. What do you say to that? And yeah, you can start there, yeah?
Okay. I say it's all of ours. I think teachers play such a major role in the lives of children. I remember how many times I would come home and my mother would say, you need to do this, and I say, my teacher said. So I see teachers as teachers' moms. I see parents as critical. I see coaches as important. I see givers, anyone, adult, who is in the life of a child is important. How many times have you heard an athlete on TV mention the most important person who influenced them, and many times it's not a parent? So I say to you, as adults, if we want to change what's happening to our children now, if you are in their space, be responsible about it. Be the person you want that child to be.
Thank you. And you this is an extension of that question. You addressed this a little bit with the silhouettes, but how can families and schools work in synergy to help a child become the best version of themselves?
I think that you have to have a common vocabulary, first of all. And I don't think that's very difficult. You know, if you have a child in school or at home and you tell them, I want you to respect your teacher, and the parent simply says, I want you to respect me. I want you to respect other adults. So I think it's very important that we start to look at the vocabulary and use a common vocabulary. Even before I came to this conference last year, I was very concerned about what I was seeing in children. But then when I looked at the adults, I said, here's some of the problem. You know, when do we get to the point that we in a restaurant, I've seen people served by a waitress. I've seen kids, the waitress say, do you want anything else? Yeah, would you get me a pop? I cringe. And I say, could they have said, could I have a pop, please? What happened to thank you? What happened to even speaking to people? When you speak to a person, you acknowledge their humanity. It is not just about you and your voice. sometimes just that speaking makes a person's day. And you know what? I learned a lot of that from my son, old as I am. I saw him go through airports and how he treated the people who worked in security, how he treated the people who might be cleaning up. So when I go into the restroom now and I see the people cleaning up for me, I say, "Good afternoon, how you doing?" They are shocked. How did we get to a society where people are shocked because you speak and you say thank you? And then we wonder about why the kids are the way they are. Now, I know that's not you. That's not you not saying thank you. That's not you getting in an elevator and not saying good morning. How you doing? So just share that with your friends, okay?
Well, the thing, Dr. Hines, that I thought was interesting in reading the book and working with the book is that a lot of us know to practice gratitude or, practice kindness, but the way that you articulate those life lessons helped me become more mindful of that every day and to practice those things every day. There's one quick example I wanted to share. On the way to ASU+GSV to the air show, we brought a bunch of teachers here, and I just had some cards, and in your book, you talk about the importance of writing handwritten cards and how that really matters and means something to people. And so I was more mindful of that after reading the book and wrote handwritten cards to all the teachers. And one of them said to me after I did it that it was worth more than the money that they were getting for coming out here. So I just think there's little tips and practices in the book that can change your whole kind of day and your energy as you go throughout your day. Okay. So we're going to talk about gratitude right now. So I'm going to share another quote around gratitude. So in a world where there is instant gratification everywhere and technology has made everything accessible at the click of a button, it is important for our children to know nothing is guaranteed, that the person serving you food is a person and has a family too, that there is someone who has less and is just as important as you are, that there is hard work behind a lot of the things that we often take for granted. With the rise of AI, things are becoming increasingly more accessible and the human element of everyday interactions is removed. So can you talk a little bit about centering gratitude?
I think that's one of the easiest things we could do, to just be thankful. I try every morning when I get up. Sometimes my friends will call and they'll say, "How are you doing?" And I said, "I'm great." They said, "Why are you great all the time?" I said, "If I'm not great right now, I'm going to be great later." And I'm thankful I got up. Now, it may be because of my age, and don't pay attention to what she said about my age, but I'm grateful that I'm breathing. I'm grateful that I'm able to get up and walk on my own. I am grateful that I am able to talk to my son or my granddaughter. I am grateful. And I think that for us to share a little gratitude with each other, don't take for granted what people do for you. One of the things that really warms my heart, and I actually ended up putting it in the book, my goddaughter has a daycare center, and I was talking to her about some things in the book, and I heard one of her little children come in, and she said, "Good morning, Miss Bracy." And then she turned around and said, "Thank you, Daddy, for bringing me to school. I love you." Your children should not. You are responsible for taking care of them. But that don't mean you have to drive them to basketball lessons, baseball lessons, to ballet. It means you're supposed to give them the basic essentials of life. So when you do those extra things, you need to say thank you. Thank you to your grandmother. Thank you to your father for driving you to that baseball lessons. Once you begin to say that, and not only say that, model it. Thank you, Aunt Tavis, for cleaning up your room. Thank you for helping me with dinner. What does that take for us to become a society where we are grateful for things we take for granted? If many of you or some of you were in the session where the young lady had everything, 30-some years old, I think, she had a stroke. And she was saying in that session, there were so many things you take for granted. So I say, first of all, start gratitude with yourself. Be grateful for you. Do some good things for yourself and be grateful. Model that for the children who are in your life, and you don't have to birth a child to be a parent. I give out more cards on Mother's Days to teachers and people I know who are good to kids, never had a child, never birthed a child. So let's show gratitude. And I know we have technology. We text everything. How about just one time or sometime trying to write a note to just say, thank you, Erica, for all the things you do for me? What about just saying, thank you for being my friend? If your child hears that, they will do that.
Thank you, Dr. Hines. I almost said the Golden Girls, thank you for being my friend. We traveled down this road again, but I won't do that. Okay. So I think we have a little time to pull out some more quotes from each chapter. So I want to go into lesson 4, which is around kindness and teaching them the importance of helping and giving to others. This one really touched my heart because I have a very close relationship with my grandparents. So I'm going to read the quote from the book and have you talk a little bit about it. What I don't see in this generation of adolescent and teenage children, as much as I saw in previous generations of children, is the reverence and respect for their grandparents and other older members in their family, which would cause them to want to give of their time and to help them.
Growing up, it was a given. It was a given that we would go over to our grandparents' house and help them. It was a given that we would clean up if they needed it. It was a given that my brothers knew they had to take out the trash. They weren't asked to do it. We saw my mother helping her mother. We saw our father at the time helping his parents. And so I just think, like I said, if we can get back to some of those old school values that are missing, I think we would all be better off. And I do not think that we want to raise a generation right now that texts their grandparents all the time. I think that we want to model and pick up the phone and call our grandparents just to check on them, say, I love you, can I go get your prescription? Whatever. It just does not make any sense that we in this nation don't pay reverence to seniors. They do in other countries, believe it or not. And I think I become very passionate about that. Not that I'm a senior.
No, you're not.
But I think, like I said, just a kind word to them. Just help them, fix them a plate. And there's so many seniors that don't have anyone. So maybe think about going to a senior citizen home, taking your child, your grandchild. Maybe they could write a card to a senior. There are all kind of things we could do that don't cost money. Let's start to do some of them.
Great, thank you. So we have a minute left, and I have a lot of favorites, but I'm gonna pull out my favorite quote because there's a whole installation outside of Stage X dedicated to this theme of self-love and self-love leading to loving others. So the quote from your book is, "We remember the importance of praising their efforts, tenacity, and character, rather than focusing on the outcome. Verbalize how their uniqueness is amazing and teach them to own it in spite of worldly perspectives." Do you want to say a little bit about that?
I'm going to close by saying, first of all, make sure you're loving yourself. You can't teach a child to love themselves unless they see you loving yourself. So start with that And once they see that, then you model it, they will begin to know how to love themselves. Not trying to sell my son's book, but he said you got to love yourself first. So start with that. And I want to thank you for coming and sharing this time with me, and I look forward to seeing you later on this evening.
Let's give it up for Dr. Hines. Woohoo!